We're at Todd Hill Farm. We're going to talk about reading putts. In order to read putts intuitively, you really have to know the space of the green as a surface, and that means you have to know the fall line right at the hole. Whether you know that implicitly or explicitly is probably going to make a difference on whether you're a consistent golfer or a streaky golfer. To know the fall line consistently and explicitly, you need to know what makes it a certain way and how to find it. The fall line is the only true uphill, downhill, straight putt at any one hole location on a flat but tilted area around the green. If you had a disc and you laid it down on the kitchen counter, it would be flat and level, not tilted, but flat and level. And that would mean that every point around the circumference of that disc were all the same sea level. There would be no difference, and all putts in that disc would be straight. If that were a flat but untilted level section of the green, all putts across that would look like the same straight lines into the hole, a giant asterisk. Well, that's not the way greens are. Greens are tilted, and right around the hole, they're also basically flat for some indefinite distance out, maybe 3, maybe 10 feet. There's not really a lot of different contours real near the hole. The hole for a certain area out is basically flat but tilted in a certain way. The fall line is what tells you exactly how it's tilted in space. In order to find the fall line, you have to realize that if you tilted a disc in the air, like a musical chairs tilt so nobody knew, and then you stop, one and only one point on the rim would be higher than all the others. That would be the first way to find the fall line. From that highest point through the center of the cup out the bottom of the rim, the lowest point, that would be the one line that's straight uphill downhill. If you took this little tilted disc of the rim of the cup and treated it like a clock face, this would be 12 where the highest point is, and 6 would be lowest, and 9 and 3, or 3 and 9 would be the axis of tilt. The second way to find the fall line is to realize that the axis of tilt from 9 and 3, all elevations along that line, they're all the same and they don't change when it tilts. Right there stays exactly the same. So the second way to find the fall line is to look for a sideline 9 to 3 where it feels like you're plowing uphill without digging in one side or the other. Or the second way to think about it is about like leaning down and doing a push-up on a tilted plank so that your hands are level and you're not canted one way or another on gravity on the plank. Between these two ways, you can do them separately. Look for the highest point on the rim, make a wild guess, there. Look for the axis of tilt sideways through the cup and see what you think is a straight shot up the hill. And maybe this is it. But those two guesses have to end up being perpendicular. Okay? So if this was the guess of the highest point on the rim, center, lowest point, and then you went off and had a glass of water and did this little thing to figure out the axis of tilt, and you came up like this, they're not perpendicular, and so something is wrong. One or both of these are wrong. You don't know which. It's only when they come out perpendicular that you have high confidence that you have it right. All right, so let's make a guess and revisit. I like that for highest point on the rim, and I kind of like this okay. I kind of like it over here a little bit more for the uphill snow plow kind of thing. So if I said this is 6, and then this is 12, that would basically be my guess on what the fall line is through that hole. Now the proof is going to be in the pudding of what happens if I putt dead straight. Okay, if I putt dead straight, there should be no break, it should go dead straight. A little bit of break to the right. If the ball breaks a little bit to the right, then I have to move my 6 o'clock position also to the right and try again. See if it breaks again. This should make it straighten out. All right? So from right here, we found our 6 pretty accurately now. So 612 is kind of like this. 9 and 3 would be 3, and 9 would be perpendicular out from this little cross shape right here. So let me draw it on the ground to further explain it. Here's the 12 line, here's the 6 line, here's the 3 line, and here's the 9 line. Makes a cross on the ground. Once you have this basic understanding of the fall line through this hole, whenever they put this hole back here again, you've already read this fall line. It's a permanent feature of the green and it doesn't change. Now, with this clock in mind, there's a very regular pattern of breaks that are always the same. From 6 o'clock, there's 0 breaks. From 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, these two breaks are exactly the same shape. They're just mirror images of each other. 5 is a small break from right to left, and a 7 is exactly the same small break from left to right. And from 8s and 4s, these are bigger breaks, but they're also the same. Everything over on the 3 side is the left to right break, is the right to left break, including the downhill putts. And everything from 9 o'clock is the left to right break, including the downhill putts. When you get to 9s and 3s, these are side hill putts. Everything below that is an uphill putt. Everything above this axis of tilt is a downhill putt. The only side hill putts are exactly at 9 and 3. 9 and 3 are the same, and they are the biggest breaks that you ever face. Side hill putts are the maximum breaks. The 9 break and the 3 break will be identical, assuming that this is flat but tilted, which it is, more or less. Then once you get above and you start looking at 10s and 2s, 10s and 2s are just like 8s and 4s. They're big breaks. They're not the biggest, but they're big. And they're the same. 11s and 1s are exactly the same break. And they're just like 7s and 5s. So you have this giant pattern that looks just like a spider.
You're Spider-Man, Geoff.
That's right. That's why I'm wearing red. Got little short shooters on me. Okay. Now, how much break? This pattern is the general underlying template, but it doesn't tell you how much break there is for a given putt. So let's take a look at that, and we'll look at 3 little ways to see the same break.